Hello, welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host Ed Charbeneau, and with me, as always, is John Bristowe. How you doing, John?
I'm great. I hope everyone else out there is having a good day. Getting near the end of the week. Lots of stuff happening. Good stuff. Weird
It's
stuff.
weird stuff. There's always it's the new normal. Weird stuff is
Sure.
the new normal. We got some news today. Let's share some news. Let me get my screen share up here. We've got brand new Rust announcing
Yes.
more rustier Rust. No,
Yes.
Rust 1.66. Oops,
Yeah,
sorry.
so Rust is getting more and more traction. It's not a surprise given how type safe it is and how strong it is in especially in the security circles. Like I'm hearing a lot of anecdotal feedback. Like I was listening to a podcast. I listened to Go Time, which is a podcast focused on Go development. And they
Mm-hmm.
interviewed a person who was talking about how they decompile programs. And he said that Go is somewhat easy to understand when you're looking at the tools aren't all there, but he's like, when you get your hands on a Rust program, holy cow, is this a totally different animal sort of thing. And it's because of the tooling not being there.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that going on. There's a lot of tooling that's going on right now. A lot of people are leveraging Rust in interesting ways. I think where you're seeing it used a lot at the moment is sort of in the parts and pieces of applications and systems that have to be highly secure and robust.
Mm-hmm.
Rust continues on its merry march towards improvements, and so 1.66.0 has been released, and so everyone fire up Rust up and get the appropriate updates. So in the latest, we have explicit discriminants on enums with fields. This basically allows you to specify the representation that is represented by the enumerations that you specify. So in the examples they provide is like unsigned int, bool, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so previously you'd have to assume the association, but now that you can specify these in brackets, it gives you that. There's a bunch of other stuff around the tooling as well, and then they've added some minor fixes to both Cargo, which is their package management utility for dependencies, and their APIs. So just worth noting, and again, another update to the Rust runtime and tool set.
Yeah, I've been keeping my eye on web frameworks popping up there. There's a couple, but they're not really gaining the traction of, say, a Angular or Blazor type of thing yet.
Right,
So it'd be
right.
interesting to see how that works out next year. But I am keeping my eye on it. I'm waiting to see if we get like a Blazor type of WebAssembly Rust implementation. There's some uh, projects out there, some experimentation that people are doing, but nothing quite getting its hooks in yet. But we'll see.
Right. Okay.
Meet Ellie, your AI email assistant.
Yes. So I thought this was really cool. So this person launched a very quick startup, basically based on generating automated replies to emails. So what this is basically a inline extension for Gmail. And what it does is based on the email that's come in, it will craft you a response based on the input you give it. So it's something to the effect of, I want to reply in a respectful manner. I'm not like, so basically, how do you want to reply? What's your intent? And craft an email for me. And so that's one of another examples of, I don't know, how this is working. And I believe this is based on GPT as well. It is powered by OpenAI. I don't know if they're using GPT. They're probably using GPT. So yeah, just another offshoot of the tooling that is generated or that's coming out of the sort of stuff that's coming out of OpenAI. And I don't fear this at all. I think this is awesome. I think like anything, these are tools to help you be successful. And so if you're interested, this is something that you can go check out, and it is a great example of what's out there.
So it's an interesting area to be getting into. Like our email and text and stuff already does little predictive stuff, but not
Yes,
to this
Gmail does
degree.
this. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
not to this degree though. It's like it'll finish a line, it'll read the context of an email and offer a 2 or 3 word response. It doesn't quite fill out like a whole like paragraph or anything. But
Right.
when are we going to get to the point where it's just bots talking to bots? And it's
Yep.
yeah. Didn't somebody automate like their job once and they got caught like
Oh yeah.
eventually?
So that's
They
what the
had all
pandemic's
these.
revealed, that everyone's getting second and third jobs, secondary and tertiary jobs, and they're doing it through basically automation. So
Yeah. There was like some guy though, he like automated his whole job and he would just like sit and watch like football and play video games all day. And like finally somebody caught up with him and they tried to like sue him over it. It's like, hey, he was doing what you asked him to do. I
doing
don't
his
know.
job, he's doing his job. Yep.
He's sitting there monitoring his scripts. I don't know what else you want from him. But seems like we're headed down an AI version of that.
Yep.
OBS Studio project.
Yes. So OBS Studio, or Open Broadcaster Software, OBS for short. It's a free and open source screencasting and streaming app, and it's been around for a long time. It's used quite heavily in spaces like this for podcasting. They have recently added, or actually a pull request has come in that adds support for WebRTC, or web real-time communication, to OBS. And the reason why this is interesting is because it relates to the story I mentioned earlier about Rust. So this has been implemented in Rust. And so this is an interesting example of how folks are basically utilizing Rust in interesting ways. And I thought this was an interesting PR and really shows kind of like where things are going relative to languages. So it's important to watch these trends, because obviously it gives you a sense of what the zeitgeist is relative to these programming languages. Go is popular, Rust is growing in leaps and bounds in terms of popularity. So it's always important to make sure that you're keeping aware of what's going on out there. And this is just an example of some of the work that's being done.
Yeah, I know folks are big fans of OBS. A lot of your streamers use OBS, and they've done a good job at kind of creating a platform that's free to use, and you can become your own broadcaster. It's a really amazing tool.
Yep.
It was on a little shaky ground a few years ago, not as far as adoption, but just kind of, it was, it had that open source UX to it. And it's improved dramatically since like Twitch streaming and YouTube streaming has gotten to be like a mainstream, no pun intended, mainstream type of a thing. So the UX has gotten better over the years. So if you haven't tried OBS in a while, check it out. You can even do like screen recordings and stuff if you're just making pre-recorded content for work or something. Maybe you're doing some tutorials for your team or whatever. You don't have to use a paid product. You can just go get this and try that out. If you do want a paid product that has like the all-inclusive like editing and all that stuff, Camtasia is fantastic as well.
Yep.
I use Camtasia for all sorts of stuff, and the folks over at TechSmith are fantastic as well. Good stuff, cool. John. This is something I picked up I thought you would rather enjoy. So we're talking about WebAssembly versus Kubernetes. But they're talking more in the context of how to get like containers running on WASI or WebAssembly on the server. So it's kind of it's talking about replacing Kubernetes with WASM. So it's kind of an interesting conversation to have, because WebAssembly is getting to be this like deploy anywhere type of environment. It's a runtime that you can deploy your code on, and any server, client, doesn't matter. It's running all over the place. So it's a really interesting article to kind of go back and forth and get both sides of the argument on. It's like, do we need containers?
Yeah, I think
we have this thing that runs everywhere.
Yeah, I think that I didn't read this article, but as I'm glancing through it, I suspect what they're identifying is the fact that this is really WASM versus containers as opposed to Kubernetes, because Kubernetes has a bunch of facilities associated with it as well, like scaling and pods, and it's all focused around taking a container and doing it en masse, basically, in terms of a runtime. WASM is synonymous with this notion of containerized deployments, in the sense that you'll build out this WASM binary, if you will, and provides a runtime environment within which it can host. And so I think those are synonymous for sure. And it's interesting because what you're doing is you're establishing isolation boundaries. So it works well, and then you don't have to worry about if things blow up. The difference here, though, is in the case of containers are immutable. I don't know if WASM has that same notion. I believe they do, but I don't know if you know, Ed, or not. But yeah,
I don't know in this context, like
okay,
what it means for immutability, but I mean, it is compiled code, so you can't. It is pretty secure. But what I like about this quote, though, it's like, without writing a single line of YAML, like,
oh god,
it's like,
yep.
If you hate YAML that much, here's a thing that's gonna help you. Go to WebAssembly. You'll never have to look at that pesky YAML again.
Yeah, I think this addresses the challenge that developers have, which is unstable APIs, confidence in runtime environments, mutability of the runtime environment as well. That always causes problems. This is why Java suffered for so long. Run once, debug everywhere, etc. C++ has got, as much as C++ gets a bad rep, it's actually come a long way in terms of multi-plat and universality, basically. I mean, the Go runtime, the reason why it's so successful in terms of building a Go app and having it just run everywhere is because it leverages a lot of that plumbing that's built into the C++ compiler. So anyway, I think that this is an interesting take. I hadn't actually even considered this as an option when thinking about these things. So WebAssembly and comparing that to containers / Kubernetes to a lesser extent is interesting. I think it is interesting.
Yeah, I think they're two completely different approaches that may be solving the same solution. I think that's maybe the gist of what they're trying to say in the article here. Yeah, and I think you're right about this kind of focusing on Kubernetes instead of just containers, but it's probably, I don't want to assume too much. I don't know the author, but maybe this was a better search SEO to put Kubernetes rather than just containers.
I guess so. Yeah, this hits every target.
Yeah, or maybe they're just more familiar with Kubernetes than they are other container technologies. So when they're writing the comparison, that was the perspective they had rather than try to make it generic. They just did what they knew about. So without making too many assumptions, we can probably sub in any container there, but it looks like that's the one they chose.
Definitely something worth reading. I'm very interested in this take, obviously, because we care a lot about this side Octopus deploy. This will be something that I'll be looking at.
Thought that was pretty relevant to you. Relevant to me is the state of CSS. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We had an exclusive on the channel here at Code It Live.
How did that go?
It went really well. Alyssa Nicole, she led that show and had some amazing guests on, and they did their run through this. So I won't do it again. Just go check out that show. But every year, this team puts together the state of CSS, and they have some really great visualizations mixed in here. To kind of show you where all of the new tech is, maybe where some CSS frameworks lie. They do some demographics and things. What I focus on myself is the features part. I really enjoy going through the features because there's always new things being added to CSS, and we don't always know how those things work. And that's exactly what part of this survey is about, is asking people what new things that were added do you actually know about, and have you used it? Like, it's literally like almost all of the questions here are, have you used it? Did you know about it? I think there's a third option to just kind of bypass it if you don't want to be put in one of those buckets, but they display here the know about it or have used it.
Right.
Oh, there it is. Never heard of it. That was the other one. I knew there was one more. Never heard of it. I know about it, or I've used it.
Dead
so
to me.
See where other people lie. And it's not so much to see exactly where other people are, but to see the
Yeah.
trends over time. So you could see
Yep.
like CSS logical properties. Um, this is something that helps with, I think, yeah, the writing modes is another one. So I'll talk about those
Mm.
two, and then we'll move on. So writing modes is like not all languages are left to right. Okay, as much as us people in the United States consider everything left to right, that is not how the world works. There are other languages in other countries that go right to left.
Hebrew
So yeah,
is one example. Yep.
yeah, there's quite a few of them. I think what was the other one? Arabic, I think, is another one
Hmm.
that goes left to right. So you can actually set this up now in CSS and say that I want. I'm just going to flip this property to go left to right rather than right to left. It also does top to bottom, bottom to top as well. That's more like, I think it's more of a 90-degree turn, vertical vertical top to bottom, horizontal top to bottom. Sorry, vertical top to bottom and bottom to top. So when you do that, you need another way to describe things like the top of,
Orientation,
yeah,
wrapping. Mm.
orientation and stuff like that. So instead of having top and bottom as values or of your properties, you have things like start and end,
Gotcha.
because start and end is ambiguous to, you know, if you change it from left to right or right to left,
Right.
start automatically flips to the other side depending on what writing mode you're in. So these
Yes.
two are kind of linked together. So this is something that over time people have started to learn a little bit about and maybe start to use a little bit. And if you're going through the survey and you don't know what these things are, you can simply go click on the MDN button here, and this will bring up the definition for it.
Mm.
So if you're in this gray category of I never heard of it, or maybe never used it, that's another thing. If you've never used it, maybe it's because you can't. So you can go to this button here and click Can I Use? And it's going to tell you if the browser supports it.
Yep.
So this is a really good way, this survey is a really good way to brush up on your skills. So hit this feature section, go through it, and every time you run into one and you're a little iffy about if you've never used it or you don't know about it, click the buttons. Just go through all
Mm.
of them, read the definitions real quick, and see what this new tech is all about. So
Nice.
that's my
And
2 cents on the
fancy
survey.
tech.
If you do
Nice.
anything, if you do any section of this survey, if you're writing CSS, do the feature section just for your own skill set. Like dive through that and check it out. I think it's a really good thing to do. You only get this once a year. I mean, if you're gonna learn something new, do it now. Check it out.
Nice.
Git Kraken. I've used this
That's
a little
right.
bit. It's a pretty cool Git visualization tool. We got some new stuff in this release, John.
Yeah, so Git Kraken is actually my favorite Git client. I use it all the time. I've used a number of clients. I know that people have their opinions about various Git clients, like command line or nothing, but so Git Kraken is my Git tool of choice, and it's got a bunch of new features. V9 just shipped. And some of the features that I like in particular are workspaces, namely local workspaces. It basically allows you to group your repositories under a name, which is awesome. And that allows you to kind of have a context. Like if I'm working on a set of GitHub actions, or I'm working on a bunch of Go libraries, or I can group those in terms of workspaces and I can actually do a full pull request across all of them in my workspace, which is cool. Git Kraken Insights is basically showing you telemetry around, pull requests being merged, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of whatever. It's sort of like that DORA metrics you see in the DevOps space. The other one that I like is commit highlighting. So when you hover over the visualization that shows you your branches, et cetera, the main trunk, et cetera, and branches, as you hover over various branches, it will remove visually the other ones. You can hover over those, and you can also do what's called commit highlighting, which allows you to see when you hover over a branch or tag, any of the associated commits will be highlighted in the graph, which is cool as well. So lots of really cool little visualization things in there, and definitely something worth checking out.
Yeah. So many years ago, I was at a conference, and the booth next to me was the folks that started Get Kraken,
Nice.
and they were super enthusiastic about this tool, and they were really nice folks to meet. So it's nice to see that people that were that passionate about the product they were working on
Yeah,
have gotten it this far,
that's
and
good.
it's still very relevant and made made its way this far. There's a lot of competition out there for this type of thing. You get
Yeah,
features in Visual Studio Code that kind of lightly touch the surface of what this does, but this is above and beyond what those plugins and native features of IDEs are able to do. I'd say probably even goes beyond the tool that GitHub pushes out. There's a GitHub client that's similar in some ways. But yeah,
Mm.
when you've got passionate people behind it, I mean, they're coming up with new ideas. They're adding all kinds of cool stuff to it. Good stuff, John.
Hmm.
This is an article that was part of the C# Advent.
Okay.
I believe this is part of the C# Advent. So where I picked it. Yeah, there it is. I was looking for the link. I didn't see it. I wanted to make sure. So the C# Advent. We talked about this every week so far. We're a little bit further than halfway through now. There's about 2 weeks left, roughly, for two exactly. So 10 days left for the C# Advent calendar. That means it's 10 days until the holiday if you celebrate. But every day there are at least 2 articles that are being shipped about .NET. And there's been some really good ones in there. I kind of cherry picked one that I thought was really cool because there's just so many. We can't do them all. This was how to structure your .NET solutions, architecture, and trade-offs.
Hmm.
And it's a fairly lengthy article, so I won't go through all of it, but we'll kind of highlight some of the things that we covered in here. There's also some nice kind of sketches in here of different things. So there's talk about how to separate your databases. Should you have a database for like every microservice, that sort of thing, and finding balance there. So it talks to the data part of the application. This is like the full stack here. MVC, should I use that? Should I use feature folders, which is something that I'm pretty fond of. Vertical slices, I like that along with Blazor.
Yep.
They show Razor Pages here, I think. It works very well with Blazor. And then, services, microservices, front-end considerations. It's got a lot of great stuff in there. So if you're skimming through the C# Advent stuff, make sure you check out James Hickey's article there about structuring your .NET solutions. I think this probably goes beyond .NET solutions. Again, it's one of those things where the author works in .NET. This is what they're familiar with, but you could probably apply it to many things.
Yes.
Another tool, John, I know that you're probably a fan of, many of us are, is ReSharper.
Absolutely.
So ReSharper is celebrating a release. They've got they do our version numbers similar to they're similar to ours. 2022 release 3. So they've got a lot of improvements here, but one of the big ones that they were highlighting is support for ARM64 in Visual Studio 2022. So if you're developing on ARM, there's a lot of people jumping on like Surface. What are those things called? Surface. There's a special edition of it. One of the surfaces is ARM-based.
Okay.
So that's a very popular one because it's very portable. You can take it on the road with you and work remotely off this nice little tablet. So Visual Studio for ARM 64 and ReSharper is working in that. So I just thought I'd highlight this really quick. We get along well with the folks over at ReSharper, our JetBrains. They got some good people there making some really cool stuff.
100%.
Check out ReSharper and the new updates there. This is something that .NET developers have been using for quite some time and are very fond of.
Yeah, ReSharper is definitely one of those tools you want to have in your arsenal of tools, certainly for folks on VS, Visual Studio. And it's been around forever. And it's like, it's just one of those must-have tools. JetBrains has just a colossal amount of great developer tools. We're huge fans of JetBrains.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some competition for this tool through like Visual Studio itself, and other companies have come and gone in this space.
Sure.
And ReSharper's always been the one that's leading.
That's the standard.
Right?
That's the bar that everyone looks at as far as complementary tooling and during a in-code experience. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll talk vaguely about a similar product, and I won't name the company that was behind it. It no longer exists. But when I saw it for the first time, there's kind of a rule of thumb I have, and it came to mind when I saw the competition for this. And it's like, if you have to start your product pitch with, well, it's just like the other product, then you've already failed. Like when it's, you're inventing the new thing and you're like, it's just like Twitter, but you got an uphill battle against you.
Analogies help especially when they're trying to pitch something, right?
If it's just like ReSharper, but then they've already beat you to the punch. I'm sorry. Speaking of Visual Studio plugins and things, we talked about this one in Visual Studio Code, I believe. You brought this up for VS Code a while back, John. It's now in Visual Studio proper. The sticky scroll is in preview now.
Yes, so this is hot. I like really this a lot.
Yeah,
yes.
You liked that.
Yeah, so, I remember I saw this on their YouTube channel. The idea is as you scroll up, if you're in a scope, it will pin that scope top line as you scroll up. So it gives you context. So sticky scroll, contextual scroll, whatever. It's super, super useful because sometimes rather than going up and down, up and down, up and down in terms of like figuring out where you are or what is the context within which I'm running this, sticky scroll just takes up a little bit of room and provides that context, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's adjustable.
You get these guides already, which are pretty helpful. But even then, if you got nesting this deep, it can get confusing.
Yeah, I know. Well, if you're cutting HTML and you're inside the 10th div tag, maybe, I guess. So. Sorry.
Ouch. Nobody should have that many div tags. I like to call them div mysteries because if you turn them sideways, they make a
a Christmas tree or a ski ramp or whatever. Yes.
But these are very helpful. I'm not knocking the tool. I'm knocking the code. If you've got this much nesting, you've got some refactoring to do. There should not be this many if statements nested within each other. That's just bad. That's a code smell. That's just terrible. Don't do that. Pick up some functional programming or something and stop doing that. That's just me. But sticky scroll help you refactor that stuff into something more manageable. So check that out in preview.
Love it.
And then last but not least here, John, I have to have an AR VR thing. You know that.
God.
You know that. We've got the Gorillas, which is a band.
Yes, I love the Gorillas. Yeah, Gorillas is good.
Back ways, 90s.
The Gorillas, yes.
They come
yeah.
So they're doing a concert in New York City that is going to be an AR concert. So you'll have to, I guess, see it to believe it. It's something you probably have to experience in person to really appreciate. So I guess there is an app that you'll download that is free on iOS and Android. I don't know what's powering it. It doesn't really say. It does say, okay. Well, partially
Hopes
powered
and
by
dreams,
Google's
as I like to say.
AR core with geospatial API, the geospatial API. So it's probably okay. This is probably sponsored by Google then, so it does say what it's built with. So you'll be able to, if you're in New York City, you can hold up your phone, look out your window, and there will be these giant figures singing above the the towering skyscrapers and whatnot. I think it's pretty cool. It's gimmicky,
All right.
yes. It's gimmicky. It's totally gimmicky. But this is the kind of stuff that I think is really neat. It's creative. It's gimmicky, but it's creative. The youngins will like it.
The youngins.
Right? The youngins.
The Utes.
The Utes. The kids will like it.
Sure.
I think it's cool. I think we'll see more of this type of stuff in the future. And I know you're cringing right now, John, but
Sure. Yeah. Why bother going to the concert altogether? Just stay in your home.
I don't think this is a first for the Gorillas either. AR maybe, but I mean, as far as tech goes, I think they've done quite a bit of like techie stuff at their concerts in the past.
Yeah, Radiohead does this a lot too. That sort of paint by numbers shock value or innovation numbers, or innovation is kind of meh. I mean, like I can't tell you the number of people I've met who are like, they're like, lasers are, we can draw anything now. And, I don't know, whatever. I never thought the concert experience was a bad thing. I thought the whole point of going to a concert was to see the band live, not to slap on a VR headset, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, depending on where your seats are, you're probably looking at a big screen anyway. So
fair enough.
Yeah. But they've done some like some cool techie related things in the past with screens and characters and animation and whatnot. So this
I'm
fits
loving
their
sorry, I'm
their,
loving
their
Overland
style.
Gamer's comment is imagine Rage Against the Machine, the whole new a new machine to rage against. Perfect.
Nice.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. I mean, people have been doing stuff with like holograms. There was like, I think it was like what was it? I don't want to say the wrong artist, but I think it was
Tupac
hologram.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's been some things like that.
Yep.
I think there was one with Queen as well. I think Queen did one where the live band was playing and they brought in like Freddie Mercury to sing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been that type of stuff. So this kind of fits, but it very definitely fits the Gorillaz style. Like this is something that they're kind of into anyway. So it's not odd. Like if Red Hot Chili Peppers or something had these animated figures, people would be like, man, they sold out, right? This actually like fits the band's kind of theme anyway. They kind of do this.
Yeah, Gorillaz has always experimented. As I said, Radiohead, Coldplay does this quite a bit. I've seen them live. There's various bands that I've seen that do this.
Yep. That's all we've got for this week, John. I did post that on LinkedIn, by the way.
Ah, nice.
So I shared that in chat as well. So if you want to see all the links that we walked through on the show, maybe download some of the stuff we talked about, or just read some of the articles, then you are more than welcome to find it there on LinkedIn for free. And John, it was nice talking to you. We will probably catch up after the holidays.
Yeah, if I don't see you, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone out there, and to you, Ed. It's been an awesome year.
Likewise, it's been a very eventful year. And hopefully next year will be more eventful in technology and things rather than just dramatic stuff. It seems like we're always in a state of panic since 2020.
I have faith in the human race of instilling some more panic, so I wouldn't worry about that.
No doubt. But happy holidays, folks. No matter what you celebrate, enjoy your families and visit your friends and loved ones and all of that good stuff. And we will talk 100%. To you next year on Eat Sleep Code. And in January, I'll give a little heads up. It's something special that I'm doing in January. I will be at Code Mash. And next, I talked to Matt Groves, the gentleman that put together the C# Advent. And I said there are so many amazing articles on the C# Advent every year. I want to make sure that we highlight those properly. I know we talk about them on the show, but Matt and I are going to do a C# Advent review live at CodeMash, and we'll stream that if we can get the facilities to stream that live from the event. If not, we'll record it, and we'll kind of dig into all the articles and talk about why they're great, and highlight some of the authors and whatnot. So
Wicked.
that should be a lot of fun. But thanks again, everybody. Have a great new year. Take care.